How's it going everyone? Chris here with some more Medal of Honor gameplay clips. In my last video I gave my first impressions of the Medal of Honor Warfighter game and I was pretty critical. It didn't really do much for me at first, but like I said in that video I'd report back after putting in some more game time. Since that video I've played the game a lot more, figured things out and found solutions to some of the main complaints I had. So I thought I'd share these things as a bunch of tips to help anyone else out who's not having a great experience in game. So one of the major problems I had with the game in my first impressions video was the horrible unresponsiveness and the input lag effect. I've since figured out what that's all about and I found a little solution that's allowed me to play the game and enjoy it a lot more. So it turns out all the different classes are programmed slightly differently, and I just jumped straight onto the assault class because you'd expect it to be the most versatile. Just like the assault kit in Battlefield 3 or the assault rifles in Call of Duty, it's always that kind of do-it-all class. But in Warfighter, because there's kits like the Spec Ops and Point Man class, the assault kit moves and reacts much slower, which is where my experience of that unresponsiveness was coming from. Like I mentioned in that last video, I'd press the reload button after shooting someone and it'd take a couple of seconds to do it, or I'd try aiming down sights after crouching or standing up and there'd be a slight delay. Spec Ops and Point Man are the fast, agile, SMG and carbine type classes, so they've got the quickest aim down sight speed, movement and fast reactions. The trouble is, these fastest kits in Warfighter are about the same as the characters in Battlefield 3, so that means your Assaulter and other heavyweight classes feel much slower than what you're used to. It would have been nice if the Assault kit was as fast as Spec Ops in Warfighter as it is now, and then the actual Spec Ops class was even faster and more closer to the Call of Duty reaction times. So my solution to the input lag / unresponsiveness I talked about in that first impressions video is just to use the Spec Ops kit. And if you're one of those guys who understood what I was on about or agreed with me, I definitely advise checking out the game again and playing with only that Spec Ops kit. Playing as any of the Spec Ops characters just allows you to run around as you would in Battlefield 3 or in Call of Duty, whereas using that Assault kit or even any of the heavyweight kits, you've got to kind of get used to that slow movement speed and those slow reactions when performing any sort of action. So as for any other beginner tips, that kind of leads me on to my first piece of advice, and that is to understand these different classes and find the one that suits your playstyle. Medal of Honor Warfighter is not really like other games where the class just determines what your weapon type is. In Warfighter, each class has its own unique ability which can be activated with the upwards D-pad button once the little circular icon thing that you can see down in the hood, once that is charged up. So that means assaulters have the 40mm grenade launcher as their special ability. Snipers and heavy gunners can deploy their weapons on bipods. Demolition guys have this cool juggernaut style suit that gives them extra protection. You can go on some nice rampages with that, but you do move very slowly. And they've got point men who have high power ammunition, and Spec Ops guys have this kind of cool Batman style detective mode that you can switch on for just a second or so, which highlights the enemy positions through walls. This Spec Ops ability, along with it being the fastest reacting class, makes it the best one to use in my opinion, and it definitely fitted my own playstyle the best. You'll see that thermal view thing in action in these clips, and it's when you see the screen go fuzzy and purple for a second or so, and if there's anyone around you'll see them highlighted in little silhouettes. This is great for rushers, and it allows you to kind of take a mental note of the enemy locations in a certain area before taking them all down with your suppressed MP7. So as for other tips for anyone new to the game, a simple one is just to try and stay near to your buddy. Like I mentioned in that first impressions video, you gain extra points when your buddy's around, either when you kill someone or when your buddy kills someone. Plus it's an easy way to replenish your health and ammunition. All you have to do is just run up to them and press and hold X, and if you're being shot or your weapons run dry, it'll replenish your health and ammo supply. You can always tell who your buddy is in game because he's the guy that's highlighted in bright green, and you'll also notice that when he gets shot his killer is highlighted in red, allowing you to get some nice revenge. Also, don't forget you can alter the controls in the options as well. I personally use the Battlefield settings because it's the one that I'm used to. But using the Battlefield setting does mean you can't feasibly use the handy lean feature that's in Medal of Honor Warfighter like you can with the default controls. This little lean feature is really cool. It's where you can kind of peek around the corner to check for bad guys, and it keeps you behind cover while you're able to open fire. problem is with the Battlefield controls, you need kind of like two thumbs on one hand to both hold the peek button and aim with the thumbsticks at the same time. With the default controls, you can easily do it with the left bumper button, but then you've got the other controls like crouch and go prone, which are on the B button if I remember right, and not the right thumbstick. Talking about controls, a commenter from my last video, Angels of Debauchery, she had a great tip to try out the slide command, and that's where you press the right thumbstick when you're sprinting, at least that's with the Battlefield controls, and that allows you to perform a cool slide move. This just helps you move quickly around the map, and it allows you to kind of spring out from behind cover while immediately aiming down sights, and it's much quicker than slowly strafing out as you would in Battlefield or Call of Duty. But overall, the main point I wanted to share in this video was that Spec Ops tip for anyone else who wasn't enjoying the game too much because of that unresponsiveness. I've since tried going back and trying out the Assaulter kit now I've got used to the game, but I can't get half as good scores with it as I can with the Spec Ops kit. With kits like Demolition, you kind of expect that slow movement speed and you just adjust your playstyle to suit, but with the Assaulter kit being kind of a more offensive kit, you can't help but try and fall back into your usual playstyle, and that's when you kind of get caught out with that unresponsiveness and that slow aiming speed and those slow reactions. So hopefully this will help at least a couple of people out. I still don't know whether I'll be picking up the full game, but I've got to say I've been enjoying the beta much more now I've figured these little things out. But let me know down in the comments if you've got any other tips to share that might help anyone out. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching. I'll catch you all later.